That's after we start.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing tonight? Coming to you on a Tuesday, which is a little bit different than our normal time. Ash is going to be with us a little bit later, so let's just make sure all of the good old social stuff is out there. And I forgot to update what I do for Twitter. Though Twitter did tell me that it's going to be officially changing itself to X now. I feel like they're just trying to make me want to call it by the name they insist on calling it by. Though.
Sure. Broadcast from kitchen display. Landon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
That's hilarious.
Not sure if that was my wife trying to broadcast me or.
Wow, LAFC rolling the
happens.
full strength lineup for U.S. Open Cup.
Are they really?
Yeah. Only one that's they've got Angel starting at striker, but Bogusz is there in
It's
midfield.
From kitchen
So.
display. Oh, Daddy.
Oh, give me just a moment. So we'll have a short pause here, and Christian, you can entertain the people while I go check on Lady Boss and
All right.
Toddle LaRue.
Yeah, I guess Segura and Shino are the center backs, but Palencia and Campos are. Yeah, I mean, Buanga's there, Oliveira's there, Tillman. That's ridiculous.
Can you help me get Daddy
Okay.
upstairs so we can talk to him and we used to play some discus?
That's hilarious. Let's see. Looks like San Jose is starting all their scrubs, every one of them. Lopez and Espinoza are on the bench. Sporting Kansas City. Pretty much some starting defenders, mostly scrubs. Atlanta, full scrub lineup.
All right, sorry, Toddle LaRue had to be a wildcat. That had to happen.
Holy cow. Atlanta's playing like average age of 14 years old, it looks like.
There we go. Play your kids. There we go. All right, here we go. Putting out the social there. Sorry for that quick little pause, though it does help because Ashley's coming in a little bit late today, so she'll appreciate all that. We'll tell her that we did it for her and see how she feels after that. So, social is out on Twitter. Information is out on Discord. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If this is your first time joining us, we normally go live on Mondays, but some changes in schedule to make sure we had Christian to join us as we break down the double game week today. So we're coming to you on a Tuesday, which is fine because this is not a double game week, so we don't have that Wednesday midweek pressure pushing up against us. Plenty of time to breathe and get your teams all set. So please do like and share, subscribe, hit the follow button, all of that good stuff there. It does help the channel, does help the content. And let's see here, yep, out there on the Twitters. Let me retweet it with the fantasy account. Sorry we couldn't find that user. Well, that's because you're a ridiculous thing. There we go. And retweet. Good job. Good job, Twitter. Good job. Maybe I'll call it X when it messes up, and Twitter when it does good things. So good job, X. Right there. All right. Here we go. We will get started right now. After I hit the record button. That's right. It's a big thing. Who didn't say anything about the record button this week? Yeah, Eric did. Good job. Good job. I got it thrown off my game.
Recording in
Had
progress.
to run up there to Baby Ruth. This is what we do now, Christian, is we do it live so that people can hear the recording in progress. That's what they like. Now, for real, we're going to get started. If you're new, you'll get that soon. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 14 of the 2024 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by Clean Sheets. What's a clean sheet? No. Actually, brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreons. It's because of you that we're able to keep this project going. Learn more over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy in a little bit, Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome our special guest, very special guest, Christian Ward from the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord server, admin extraordinaire, top fantasy player. So, welcome, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great to be here.
Of course it is. Super glad to have you here. You've been killing it this year in the leagues, and I know that after the first big double game week we had a small one earlier, but the first true big massive double game week that we had, was really interested in having you come on just so we can talk about general stats and takeaways and what people can expect from a more normal double game week, if that's a proper term we can ever use for a double game week. But if you are in chat with us right now, go ahead and share your scores. Looking forward to see how everyone did. And let's just start breaking things down. There's no rants or anything at the top of the show today that you have. No. We're all good. Ashley will join us later. Maybe we'll have a rant then. But right now, we're good. So happy. Let's start doing a quick recap of the double game week. That was round 13. Christian, how did you do? What are your thoughts?
Well, pardon me. I did okay. It wasn't great. I got a 165, and I expect more from myself on a double game week, to be honest. I dropped from 3rd to 6th overall. But the good news is I'm 14 points out of 1st still. That's not a lot. That's pretty big. That's pretty tiny margin to make up. That could be like one player, and I'd be in 1st. Anyway, there were a lot of big rank swings this week, which is very unusual for a double game week. Double game weeks are normally very chalky. Like, everybody picks the same player. When we say chalk, we mean that's what everybody's picking. So even though a lot of teams went chalk, there was some the Messi issue, which kind of confused a lot of people. And your captain pick, there was the Messi issue. Then there was like the two clear front runners for captaincy were both on yellow card warning. So on a double game week, you risk losing out on the second game if they get a yellow card in the first game. So everybody was scared about that. So they were all very hesitant to captain these players who were on yellow card warning. And that's what I did. I captained Lucho, and that actually put me over the top. Like, everybody that filtered up into the top of the ranks, Captain Lucho. Except for one. They captained Chicho Arango, which was the other clear front runner, and he did okay too. I think he got 21, which translates to 42 points. But Lucho, he got himself a 56, or what's half of 56? 28? Yeah, 28. So anyway, the 165, I really should have done better. I ended up picking Miles Robinson. He was injured. He went into concussion protocol, I think, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. But he didn't play the second game, so I got a clean sheet in the first. Of course, they didn't keep the clean sheet in the second, Cincy, but I ended up with a 9 there.
They did score all the goals in that game, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, the own goal, Miazga. Um, Poor Miazga. Anyway, I think a lot of the crap he brings on himself. But anyway, I had Kai Wagner, who ended up with a 15 on a double game weight, which is okay. It's pretty good. Um, Justin Glad ended up with an 11. I did take Hani Mukhtar. He was like, people were on the fence about Hani Mukhtar for some reason. He hadn't been doing very well. And I think his first game that he actually scored a goal, or like not a goal, but like had like double digit fantasy returns, was last week. Or I'm sorry, the week before the one we just finished. And so people were still on the fence about him, but I ended up taking him and got a 14. Evander, people were very, very, he's returning from injury. People were very hesitant to take Evander. For me, he was locked. I had locked in Evander like first in my team. Well, second after Lucho Acosta. Um, but yeah, I got him. He got an 18. I actually started Luis Suarez because I thought that he would pull another maniac game like he did, I think, when Messi was out the last time. Ended up scoring a hat trick. But he didn't. He scored 4 points and then sat out the second game, I think, maybe. Um, on my bench, I had Rojas. I thought this was a perfect opportunity for Rojas to step up in Messi's absence, take set pieces. That's the reason I had him, was the set pieces, because he had taken set pieces when Messi was off the pitch. So I took Rojas. I was very confident, but I put him on the bench because he played early. I expected maybe like a 16 pointer, but he ended up with a 6. Um, that was disappointing. I also took Benteke. I was really hesitant on Benteke. He's too inconsistent. Like when you think he should do well, he doesn't. You think he's not going to do crap, he just lights everything up. It's just weird, Benteke. He's an enigma. He always has been, all the way back to his time in the Premier League playing FPL. I would like have the same conversation in my head about, should I take Benteke or not? Is he gonna screw me over like he did like the last 17 times? Anyway, I took him and I regret it. 6 points for him. I did luck out with Celentano because he got a clean sheet with, the first game. And since he's one of the better defenses in the league, I think, what are they, top 5 or something, for, goals against. And it's just, very tough to play through Nwobodo and Bucha, I think his name is, or Buka. I don't know how to pronounce that. Is it Buka?
Yeah.
Wow, I just pulled a read. Anyway, yeah. Now, for the pièce de résistance, I chose Christian Espinoza and hated every second of it. Espinoza is getting nerfed. He's getting nerfed by Hernan Lopez. I watched that second game against who did they play? I can't remember who they played. Dang, who did they play? Help me out. Somebody help me out.
San Jose, who did they play in their second game?
Yeah.
For their second game last week, San Jose played Portland and Orlando.
All right, Orlando,
At
second
home.
game. All right. Yeah, at home. Orlando is leaky. I mean, they're terrible. All right, sorry, but they are. They're not a good team. They have their moments, but Orlando is not a reliable fantasy source of players unless we're under some serious circumstances that kind of force us into it. By rights, they should have scored probably 2 or 3 at least on Orlando, playing at home. And I would look up at the TV and I would see Christian Espinoza kind of walking up and down the touchline, the near side touchline in the second half. And it drove me nuts. it drove me nuts. I'm like, is that a player that's going to come on for somebody else? Oh, wait, that's Christian Espinoza. He's standing there waiting for what? I don't know, but he's standing there. Nobody's playing to him anymore. They're going up the gut, up the center, playing direct through Hernan Lopez. Now, the guys in Discord are going to have a field day with me for saying this because, they're saying like he's dead even in stats with Hernan Lopez. Like he's got the most crosses and the most assists in MLS, or like second most assists in MLS. I think behind Lucho Acosta. But Hernan Lopez just showed up, okay, like 2 weeks ago. All right. Look, Espinoza has all those assists and crosses and crap. He surely did. I mean, like he had a few crosses in this game, but it was spray and pray. Like it totally was. He played a few balls, some really good balls into Pellegrino, and Pellegrino buried one and kind of screwed up like the other two, whatever. But I'm telling you, man, like if you guys are in a conundrum about which one to pick, I'd go with Lopez, to be honest, because it looks to me like all that play is going straight through the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not playing out wide like they used to all the time through Espinoza. So yeah, that's my takeaway. I kind of jumped into takeaways, or
That's fine.
Thoughts.
Yeah.
Let me talk about players who impressed me. Chicho Arango, always impresses me, and I have in my notes enough said. I don't even need to elaborate on that. I'm not sure I would take him this week, but yeah, it's not a terrible play if you take him every week. Bernadeschi and Buanga, both of those guys are really starting to show their quality. Like we knew that they had quality, but for some reason, Buanga's had the yips on and off. He only had his first good away game was only like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like his first good away game in like 2 seasons was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And so like we develop little axioms as we play this fantasy game, like don't take Buanga away. That's an axiom that I don't know, I've said it. So like I'm starting to question some of these axioms. Like don't take Bernadeschi because he's on a crappy team. Well, he just scored a crap load of points. So
yeah.
Like you just can't afford to, subscribe too much to your own narratives, and especially the narratives in the groupthink. If you do subscribe to groupthink, just make sure you verify, with some stats or something, or just do what I do and ask all your friends who are higher in the ranks than you.
Well, and it's always important to consider those matchups as well. I mean, we talk about form, we talk about the axioms, we talk about the matchups as well, and that's something that definitely came into play during this week as well. Some of them surprising. Before I'll touch on that, welcome Ashley. As chat said, a wild Ashley has appeared. Who's that fantasy host? And it's Ashley.
Ashley with the superior lighting.
Is it? Well, yours is always inferior. I think you're the
well, yeah. I mean, it's like my.
It helps you focus on his haircut. That's what
I can't read. I had a great segue into that.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I liked it.
Let's segue into you talking about your team.
Shucks.
Yeah, I was frustrated, and I feel like Christian and I might have said similar things to start this, but I apologize. I wasn't here for his, but I got a 67.
It's okay. I didn't really even touch on any of mine, so you can just use mine.
I got a 167, and it felt frustrating, if that makes sense. Like, I did roll the dice with the Lucho captain, and good golly, did I get kind of nervous about it. It ended up paying off. But on the other side of things, I refused to start Chicho because I didn't want to roll both of those dice. I was too nervous to roll them both. And so I ended up kind of paying for that a little bit. I talked myself out of Carranza, even though I talked him up on this show last week, and he was my go-to striker every double game week last season. So I was a little upset with just some of my choices, but in general, I don't think a 167 was bad, but it definitely wasn't great or good, I would even say, maybe. For me, at least, for me. I dropped to 27 overall. I was pretty split and even in my head-to-heads. Some players that impressed me was just the Charlotte defense. I think we've been a little like late to them in the sense that we've talked about them. They've definitely been owned this year, but they've been much more consistent. They remind me of Vancouver last year. There was a point around midway in the season last year where all three of us were like, we haven't really addressed this, but Vancouver defense is decent, especially at home, and that we should be focusing on that more. And that's where
Don't say that to Reed.
that's where I'm starting to feel like we are right now with Charlotte. They are being very productive at home. I still think they're a garbage team, which I felt the same about Vancouver last year, but their defense is working. So I think that that's just something to kind of take note of as we move forward. I was really impressed to see. I'd never had him in a draft, but I always felt kind of silly to not. Gazdag really showed up this week, and there were a lot of people. He got 19 points on a double, which is not something I would shake my head at. A lot of people were against him. He's all goal dependent and all those things, which is not wrong. But it was nice to see him produce. And then, lots of bandwagon bossy people. And I was rooting against that because I did not roll that dice, but he produced as well. And to kind of piggyback off what Christian said about Chicho, is he the Carranza of this year's double game weeks? Because that's what Carranza would do all last season. He would get a 4 or 3 in the first game, and then he'd score a brace and an assist in the second. So Chicho had me kind of sweating it after the first game, and then obviously really came through in that Rocky Mountain Cup. So just something to note, maybe there's a new person. Carranza did quite well himself, but just something to pay attention to. And then it pains me to say this. I was hoping maybe it was somewhere else in someone's notes, but I think it's time to talk more about Rodriguez for Portland. He is good at soccer, and he is being consistent with his points. And it's super frustrating for me personally, but definitely something that we should be noting more in fantasy. To piggyback off that, in kind of a negative way, Espinoza, and I know Christian said this, so I'll try to keep this brief, but for me, Espinoza and Mukhtar are just not hitting the way that they should. Nashville just had a coaching change. San Jose are starting to click more as a team, but he's not producing in fantasy since Lopez got there. It's just something I'm keeping my eye on. I know Mukhtar scored in the second game, but it was a penalty kick, which is something that I just hold a little less value in as far as, is he actually producing? Is he scoring from the run of play? Do they look good? The answer to both those things for me is no. So it's just kind of on my radar. And then Almada getting hurt, I think, is going to be a big fantasy takeaway. I don't know how serious that is, and then we'll get into that in a minute. But him being out for Atlanta is bad. It's bad for the rest of the, point producers. It's bad for the defense. It's bad. And then a good amount of us were tipped off to this via Tom Bogert, but I think it's so crucial in this blanket game of always Captain Messi when Messi plays to know your backup ahead of time. There was a decent amount of panic I saw and things when a lineup came out or when the Tom Bogert tweet came out that Messi wasn't going to start the first leg or travel for the first leg. And then, you kind of had to make the decision, well, is he going to start at home? And do I want him just for one? Is it worth it? It ended up not being. But I think it's so important right now as we've gotten in such a messy stride that each round, if that's who your armband is most likely going to be, who's the backup? And Reed does a great job on this show about saying, if not Messi, who would you do? But
I was going to say, we did that last week.
Yeah. I don't always mean that when I answer it, and I'm kind of always grasping, but I think it's really important as we get a little further closer to the midway point of this game that you have a backup. Who is your backup each week if you want to captain Messi? So, and how does that fit with timing, et cetera, et cetera? So those were all my takeaways.
So let's talk about the double game week specific. I know, Christian, you had a lot of good takeaways. So what are some double game week specific lessons people should keep with them, because we're going to have more coming to us pretty quickly?
Yeah. So when teams play twice in a week. It's usually 3 days apart or 4 days. Well, it's 3 or 4 days apart. There is a noticeable drop off in the second game, depending on the personnel on the pitch for the first game. If there's rotation and rest, but there's always going to be some type of rotation and rest, unless you're Philadelphia. And there is this theory that's the 1.5 theory, where you're only going to get 1.5 points from your players on a double game week. You can only expect that. You're not going to get, it's kind of rare for, unless you're a defender that gets 2 consecutive clean sheets, their scores are going to, be, symmetrical. But if you're looking at attackers, especially midfielders and bonus point earners, you can only really realistically expect to get 1.5, 1.5 the amount of points that they would normally get in 2 games a week apart, if that makes sense.
2 bites at the apple,
I know
but
you guys,
1.5 the points.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to touch on something that I really noticed in Discord this week. There's a lot of new people playing fantasy this season, and that's great. You guys stick with it. Seriously, we're here to help, and don't get frustrated. But I saw some frustration on Saturday night, after the games were over, about how they've stranded players, points on their bench. Mm-hmm. So here's some pointers I thought I'd share to make sure that you don't do that. So the strategy is different for a double game week. There's a couple years ago, we had a big argument about the strategy on a double game week. Some of us like to do switcheroos. Some of us like to do auto-roos at a double game week. Some of us just wing it and just start everything and, not worry about the bench. A new person is more apt to try a switcheroo, but chances are they're not taking into account how that switch is going to happen, because the double game week, there's different blockers. Like your slots are blocked if you're picking a double game week player for somebody that you want to scrub out. So make sure that your scrubs are single game week players that don't play. Hello, I got stuck with Nolan Norris this week.
I'm going to mention that.
It cost, yeah, well, it's because I was at a birthday party for my kid and I couldn't check lineups. So that's a lesson. Do not set your team up if you know you're going to be gone. Do not set your team up and not check it. Like, set it up in an auto-roo if you know you're going to be gone, and just let it fly, right? Don't even worry about it. Take the 2 best players from your bench and just call it good. But you got to make sure that you don't pick a player who's in the 18, okay, for a scrub. It's a rookie mistake. I made it, and I'm a hell of a veteran in this game, so it's very embarrassing. So a lot of people are paying attention to, are not paying attention to which match in the double game week is stronger when deciding who to start and who to bench. So generally in a single game week, you put bench players or your bench players are boom and bust players, okay? And or players you're not completely sure about. Flyers, differentials, things like that. That's what your bench is for. But in a double game week, it kind of shifts a little bit. Like what Ashley was saying, you've got Chicho Arango and Lucho Acosta both on yellow card warning. You're not sure if they're going to get a yellow card in the first game. So what the safe thing to do is put them on your bench. there's a philosophy difference here. A lot of us who have played this a long time know that it's kind of rare for a player to get a card in the first game and sit out the second. It happens probably once a year, maybe twice, but in a season full of double game weeks, it's a pretty safe bet, that you're going to be safe starting. But you also don't want to be dumb about it. Like if you got two players like we did this week, and you want to captain one of them, for sure, captain them. I mean, you're going to get double the points. You're at least not going to fall behind by a lot if you hadn't captained them and they ended up playing one game. So just, come on Discord, chat about it, get the hang of it, is the best advice I can give you. The other thing is about the stronger fixtures, that's important. So if you're taking a player that has a stronger second fixture and a very weak or a weaker first fixture, don't put them on your bench because you're taking them for the second fixture. Because of how the switcheroos work, there's no sense benching that player. You just put them on your pitch because they're going to suck the first game. Who cares? It's just gravy if you expect them to haul in the second game. So I always put the ones with the weaker second fixture on the bench because then you can strand them with confidence if you're going to strand them. Like if they don't hit in the first game, you're pretty sure they're going to get a 6 or something for the double game week. So you can confidently strand them and plan ahead or plan earlier to do that if you put them on your bench. Another thing is, there was a philosophy where you put your early double game week players on your bench, like in a single game week, and if they fail in their first game, or like defenders is a good example here. If a defender doesn't get a clean sheet on your bench in a double game week in the first game, they say, like, there's a school of thought that says strand them immediately. You want 11 players on your pitch that have 2 games because 3 bites of the apple are better than 2. That's the philosophy there. That's the school of thought. That's bit me in the butt a bunch of times where I've stranded a player on a double game week for a player that didn't come nearly as close as the original player that I wanted. So don't just knee jerk the best fallback option into your team. If the best fallback option left, because by the time this, the majority of the first slate of games is already playing and locked. You aren't even going to be able to pick from anybody usually worth picking from. If you get lucky, you will get a strong one. But chances are you've got a very narrow player pool, and we get it all the time on Discord. Who's the best defender left? Who's the best defender left? Quick, before they lock. And that comes from not planning. That comes from wanting to strand a player that you probably shouldn't. There are definitely players you'd want to strand. Like, for example, going back to the first piece of advice, if you think that the second fixture sucks for that player, strand them. Go ahead. Like, that's fine. But then you got to ask yourself, why am I taking a player? Is that the best pick in the first place? One strong and one weak game. Sometimes it's your only option. And last but not least, and I'm trying to make this quick, don't avoid players on yellow card watch simply because they are on yellow card watch. I touched on this a bit earlier, I already said it, but I just want to reinforce it. Everybody should have had Chicho. Everybody should have had Lucho this week. Period. Just because you're afraid that the ref would give them a yellow card doesn't. You guys missed out on like 50 points plus because of that fear. So be bold, risk versus reward. Definitely take them if you think they're a good pick. Forget about the yellow card warning. And that's what I've got. I could talk forever, but I won't.
Well, if you want to make a video about that, I'm happy to post that as a supplemental piece of content on the YouTube. So that would be fantastic. I think that's all great advice, and I think I have some good examples from my own team this round. I mean, I had Lucho starting, gave him the captain, but I did have Arango on the bench just to hedge that bet because I knew I wanted him, but I wasn't sure what might happen, and so I had him on the bench this week. But I set up my team where I had two Dallas defenders because I thought they would surely not play, and I fell in that same problem as you did, Christian, as I saw some other people in chat mention of I watched the Cincinnati game on the second round and then just checked out, and I didn't go back to check the Dallas lineup to see that Norris had started. But I had set it up with two defenders who I thought would not, or sorry, originally with only one defender who I thought would not play because I had San Jose players in there who were playing later in the week. So I thought I've at least gotten a player who will sub out to give me a Rongo because I feel like he'll do okay if he doesn't get another yellow card. I also had Rojas and Surridge on my bench because I was not sure how they would do, and I wanted to see some of their points from that first game. And what I was able to do with that was that gave me the option to scrub one of my San Jose players to just allow those players to come on. I ended up deciding to do that because I was hopeful that maybe the second games might work out. So that's when I brought in Norris, and I had lost some faith in San Jose when I saw Evander starting. I don't know why I didn't switch Espinoza for Evander when I saw Evander starting, because I should have activated my Keeperoo I didn't have it originally because I didn't have enough money. But after I was able to activate the Keeperoo for Celentano, I didn't think about that again. Like, oh, I have more budget. What else do I want to change? So that might be another tip I would add, Christian, with those double game weeks, is if you do make an early switch and you get more money, rethink, was there someone else who I preferred that I could not originally afford? And for me, that would have been Evander, but I didn't do it. So that's really the only complaints I had this round. I got 166, was pretty happy. Should have been 171, but the Norris goof up happened right there. But I had Norris, of course, that didn't get some points. Suarez was a huge bust for a lot of us. That game did not turn out. But I will say for Miami, I took over the MLS Fantasy official MLS Fantasy Twitter account, did a Q&A before the game, which was super fun. Thanks so much for everyone who participated in that. But I had a question about Miami defense, and I said, no, I didn't like Miami defense for this round. Double clean sheet is what they got there. I am surprised by that result. I thought there would have been more to the Florida Derby right there, and I expected a lot more out of DC in that game. So there's a result that wasn't quite expected. I could absolutely see why people would have gone with Charlotte. I would not have been brave enough to have double or tripled up on that team, but if you went with either Melanda or Privet, totally understand that as a pick as they have been. People 4 clean sheets in a row right now, so they were coming off of 2 right there. The Chicago Fire game alone would have been enough to at least pick one of those games. Surprised by the LA game. So there's some situations where if you at least got 1 clean sheet, it would have been good. Not a whole lot to add. I think you guys made some very good points about this round. It is always chaos with a double game week. There are always rotations. There are always weird things that happen and always things that we don't expect. But we are here to help you navigate through it. This was a great test. If you scored above 150, I would say you had a pretty good round. Saw some great scores in chat. If you got into the 170s, which was easily doable this week, you did really well. I think you definitely saw some increases. I got with my 166. I definitely creeped up, about to break back into the top 100, which is always my goal for the round. We did forget to mention last week that the second leg of the Champions League has ended. I did make it in during that one, so I think I'm joining the Cool Kids Club now for who's made that. But Fantasy Champions League qualifier round 3 is now underway. So top 50 get added into the special Champions League competition at the end of the season for some additional prizes. So that is underway. Keep an eye on what those results are. Otherwise, great scores in chat. I hope a lot of people really enjoyed this double game week. It's a great taste of it. We have a lot more of them coming up. This round is not, but they're going to start coming more frequently, and we will definitely help you navigate those as we continue to have them. But we'll talk more about this round coming up in our housekeeping section right after this. How's the volume now, everybody? Trying to adjust that. I did think it was a little low last week for myself, so I've tweaked a few things. But seriously, Christian, if you want to do like a little, I mean, I can either pull it out of this video if you want to do something else, record a video. I can upload that, kind of like Blaine did for some of his tips previous year.
Working on my Olivier Giroud.
You as well. You give me the article, I'll throw it up there.
Sexual attraction levels, how that relates to fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually,
You could totally do that, yeah. Connect to the fantasy points.
That joke, right, Christian?
what?
I told you that joke, right? I was
No.
so excited in a group thread with Reed and Blaine about Giroud being announced but not officially announced. Like, yes, it's confirmed, but LAFC hadn't confirmed it.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And he was like, you should write a fantasy article about it. And I said, it's not going to be the type of fantasy article that you're asking about.
Well, it's gonna be a fantasy article.
Fanfic. She's going to come do some fanfic right here.
I'm fixing it.
Fantasy fanfic.
Nice.
He's such a douche, but he's so good looking.
Here it is. All right, let's get this set up right here. Let's see. Dan 136. I mean, messing up the captain this round. I mean, that it was huge. Having Lucho as captain was huge this round to really make up those scores. So I mean, not bad. My question for you, Dan, would be: did you go up? Did you rise with that 136? Did you win head-to-heads? Did your overall go up? If you can say yes to either one of those, I think you did fine. That there's people of a lot, and we know that people who are listening here are. This is like not going to make the podcast, but for people who are here with us right now, we know that people who listen are of different levels, different interests, different time, and so we're trying to give you some of the insights of like people who are really hardcore actively playing, because like I mean what was the average score from this round? I don't even look at those things. So the average score was 104, and so that's going to include a lot of dead teams and players in there. I'm not 100% confident that the team that got overall number one last week was not a dead team. Not the double game with the one in round 12. So 104's got a lot of people in there who aren't playing. So for people who are playing, I mean, yeah, 130's maybe a little under the bubble. Depends on where you are, but that's still a really good score, and you can just learn the lessons from there and go. So not trying to put down any of those things. So 195, nice.
Go.
Yep.
Nice, very nice.
Ranchinator got a high score. Why don't you post it, buddy?
You can do that, man. Anyway, getting off topic. That's a little thing, like, that's where we're coming from. But at the end of the day, if you're having fun, if you're seeing some green arrows, if you're doing some good results in your head-to-heads, that's what it's all about, just especially the fun part. So let's see here. Getting the social.
Tyler.
What did Tyler
We got
get?
a 186.
Nice. Very nice. I said should have had a 171, but
Me too. I should have had what?
170.
172.
I left so much LOD points on the bench.
Oh, 171.
Left all of LOD's points on the bench.
I had
Cheat.
Lod.
You start him though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get his points.
There we go. Listen to Christian's tips. All right, there's a social out for this round. Let's.
Not
You guys both beat me this week. What are you talking about?
I took him. All right, here we go.
I didn't get
Hello, and welcome back for our housekeeping segment for our round 14 preview. Not going to go through the head-to-heads and the Pro Rel League, which probably meant that Tyler did well, and we're not going to say his name again because that's usually what happens. But just in the interest of time, but thank you so much, everyone who's enjoying the Pro Rel and the MLS Fantasy Boss Network of Leagues. You guys are doing fantastic. These are super, super fun. We're going to get into start talking about the housekeeping for this upcoming round 14. This is a single game week, so no doubles. Get a little bit of a break right here. And the games start Saturday, May 25th at 7:30 p.m. Typical Apple TV schedule right there, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. No early games, so we have a bunch of teams starting at 7:30. But keeperoos and switcheroos are absolutely on the table this week, depending on how you like the matchups, which that's going to be an interesting talking point in our next segment. Double game week, as I said, nobody is on a double. However, New York Red Bull is on a bye round this week. So those are the players you can target to help you activate your switcheroos. Now, I said there's no double game week teams. That is in the MLS official league. So our league, our game, this thing that we're listening to. Open Cup and Canadian Cup are also going on this round. So there are teams that, depending on their lineup and how hard they go, are going to be playing multiple games in this round, and we could see some rotations this weekend. So Open Cup teams, we have Atlanta, Dallas, LAFC, Seattle, San Jose, and Sporting Kansas City. And then in the Canadian Cup, we have Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. So all playing right there. Saw the Toronto game as I was at dinner this evening, and they won 8-0. Definitely some rotations, players getting in and out. So I don't think they'll be too impacted for this weekend, but put up a great score right there. So these teams are all playing. Keep that in mind as you're making your picks. Keep that in mind when rosters come out at 7:30, because you could see some rotation with these players. That being said, even though some of the players we were monitoring for yellow cards did not get them last week, there were still cards, there were still some injuries that did happen in this last round, and so we have an update from Christian right now to let us know about that as we go into round 14. So Christian, what do you have for us?
First of all, let's talk about some good news. Edward Leuven is back. Sad news, he has been absent due to his wife being diagnosed with brain cancer. So he might not be completely engaged when he's on the pitch. DeJuan Jones is from the Revs is back. He returns from a very long injury. Pedro de la Vega is back from a long recovery. So we have some very good news there. In Seattle, they need him badly. I will add this isn't on the sheet, but there's a serious rumor that is just a rumor that Tijuana is looking at Reynoso. Bogert tweeted out that is not a done deal, but at least they're getting interest. They have actually shown interest in him. So let's talk about injuries. Andres Kubis from Vancouver has an ankle injury. He's probably at least questionable. So watch that lineup. Kubis is very important to them, actually, for their defense. Even though he's a number 6 or number 8, I can't remember. But he's pretty important. Nicholas Frere, he from Miami, tore his ACL and he's out for the season, unfortunately, after dropping a monster double game week. He unfortunately is out and won't be returning this season. Martin Rodriguez, I actually am not familiar with who that is, but he plays for DC United. He is in concussion protocol, so he's unlikely to play. Thiago Almada and Georgios Giacomakis, or Yorgos, sorry, for all you Greeks out there, Giacomakis. He, from Atlanta, both are struggling with hamstring injuries, and they're probably both out. Most likely both out. They're doubtful. I don't know if that's confirmed or not by the club, but Joseph Paintsil from LA Galaxy also is out with a hamstring injury he picked up against my team, the Loons. And Jose, I don't know, Martinez from Philadelphia is picked up an injury. I don't know. There's no note behind this. I did not actually watch the game. So, but if there's something up with Jose Martinez, that's a big deal as well. He's like, the quintessential number 6 for Philadelphia and MLS. I mean, like, he's the enforcer on that team. And this is not good for their defensive prospects if you're looking for clean sheets.
He's not a guy you
from-
pick in fantasy, but he's a guy that affects both the offense
Yeah.
and the defense, right? So
Oh, heck yeah. So for red cards, suspensions, Sean Nealis got a red card. He'll be out. They're on a bye this week, so he'll be out in 2 weeks. I think on the 29th, he won't be in that game. But the rest are this week. Ryan Spalding, the fullback from New England Revolution, got a red
he was
card.
my scrub. I had to take him out.
Yeah, he won't be playing. I don't know who they're going to use. Probably somebody bad. Anyway, Miguel Tapias is a big deal for Minnesota. He got a red card against LA, and he won't be playing. He won't be playing in Colorado, and that scares. As a Minnesota fan, that scares me. Nuhu Tolo from Seattle got a red card. He won't be playing. Federico Bernardeschi. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say it's a double yellow, so it shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, he does. Tyler made this list. I'm just reading it.
I know. I'm just adding.
He literally put red. So
that's what he got.
Anyway, that's what I got. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, Federico Bernardeschi is probably the biggest one on this list. He is going to be out for Toronto. He got a yellow card in that last game, and he's on yellow card suspension for accumulation. Same with James Sands for New York City, who has become a decent player for them, I have to admit. Sebastian Kowalczyk, he is for Houston. I want to say who cares, because like he doesn't do anything. But yeah, he's out on yellow card suspension. Brecht de Jager, De Jager,
Good job.
he's out as well for Charlotte. And that is it. Cue the music.
I wish we did have music for that read. Could you look into that?
I'll see what I can do. I'll hit up Fiverr for that. Thank you so much, Christian, for that. Thanks so much, Tyler, for curating that. And if you want to learn more about who is in, who is out, who is on a card watch, who is on a double game week, who's available, who is out of the game for your switcheroos, who's on set pieces, head over to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. Go down to the Fantasy Toolbox section, and you can find out the Mega reference right there, as well as all sorts of other cool little links. But that's where we keep the Mega reference, which is a community curated project for this type of information that can be more difficult for us to find from official MLS sources itself. It's fantastic, and it's only at the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord, and the easiest way to find that is to head over to mlsfantasyboss.com/discord and click right there. It's free, it's fun, and you can see people like Christian and Tyler and all sorts of good people. Sometimes Ashley, she pops up every now and then if you summon her. Sometimes, yeah.
It's it's like a rub the lamp type thing.
Exactly. There it is. So yeah, head over there, check it out, and it's so much useful information. But we will have more useful information focused on the players that we're targeting for the upcoming round coming up right after this. All right, there we go. Yeah, Tyler, if you want to have your success touted, you're just going to have to come on the show and do it. I guess that's just how it works.
Yeah.
So that's sorry about that. Let's see here. Let's get the doink. Get that. Post.
He's like, whoa, Christian. Kowalczyk does a lot for Houston. I'm like, like, what has he done for us lately?
Yeah.
There. Double game week scores. Stars fade. Down 4. Okay. Here we go. Getting all this good stuff ready. I didn't put in any of my picks because I'm a scrub, so I'll just do that while you guys are talking.
Talk, Ashley.
Easy.
Say something.
What I'm here for.
She got her rants out last week.
I know. I have nothing to say anymore.
That's disappointing, I gotta say. I just
That one,
I
don't
want to
worry.
hear your. What? I want the blood. I want the spirit.
There'll be something. We'll see. We'll see. In the captain section. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to our third and final segment where we will be talking about the players who we are targeting going into round 14. Starting as always with keepers and defenders. Christian, who are you looking at?
I have no idea.
All right, that
if
was
you
easy. No, sorry.
If you're expecting a clean sheet this week, adjust your expectations. Anyway, it really depends on the rest and rotation we're going to get from these midweek games, to be honest, who I end up picking. But I am looking at the long short list is Willis, because I think Montreal are going to actually poop the bed on attack. Willis, I've got Kalina in there right now, but could easily turn into Semle, Bono, or Celentano even. And for fallback, you got your choice of Stefan, McCarthy, and that bozo from Quakes, who was formerly from Yarborough. The guy, you know what I'm talking about. The guy who can't, the guy that lets goals.
I want to see how much. I mean, you're talking about William Yarbrough, formerly from Colorado.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Formerly of Colorado.
Okay.
Anyway, I have a love-hate relationship with Yarborough. Anyway, I won't get into it. For defenders, I have Aaron Herrera. I think he's probably the best defender pick this week. And that's saying something if I'm saying that a DC United defender is the best defender pick of the week. What does this come to? I've got Kai Wagner, only because Philly is better away than they are at home, and he gets bonus points, and he's on set pieces. By rights, I should probably have Lennon in my team, but I don't right now because Atlanta's a mess. I don't know what's happening with them, but I might end up with Lennon on my bench. Who knows? But I have Yoshida as a third defender right now. These are terrible picks, guys. These are bad. But I can't find any ones that are better, to be honest. So, like, the clean sheets are going to come from somebody whack, like an away team that happens to be playing and gets lucky and gets a clean sheet, and whatever. That's where the clean sheets are coming from this week. The top clean sheet probability percentage is 31%. You can't get much worse than that. Anyway, I also have Rodriguez in there mainly because he's an attacking threat. And that's pretty much it.
Ashley.
Yeah, I'm doing a weird front end where I am going back and forth between Priest and Willis, and those are two road keepers.
Yeah. Might as
but
well. I mean,
they're two
the
road
home
keepers.
keeper's going to keep one.
Yeah, I mean, they're two road keepers that are playing pretty shitty producing home teams. So I feel weird about it. But that's where I am with my keepers right now. I think Nashville with Zimmerman back is different. I feel better about Willis and that whole defensive line with him being back. And then my back end of my keeperoo is also pretty ridiculous because I'm currently going back and forth between Takioka if Messi is not traveling, which we'll get into this at forwards, but I don't think he will. And then if he does travel and does start, I think Crepeau is where I'll land for Portland. But that's also a team that's not posting consistent shutouts. So kind of like Christian, not to be the big bandwagons of womps defensively, but I'm kind of hopping on with Christian this round as well. So it's kind of just, a shot in the dark for me. And then for defenders, I'm happy Walker Zimmerman's back. I tried to talk Reed out of him, and I was so glad that he didn't listen to me last round. Even though I was mad I didn't have him, I took a lot of solace and like, oh, good, Reed kept him, and I told him to drop him. I also have Kai Wagner for the exact same reason that Christian said. I like St. Louis at home because Seattle's still struggling. Pedro de la Vega is not going to start that game. Jordan Morris and Rui Diaz are flat. It's a road game. St. Louis is a good environment, and Berkey is an amazing keeper. I think that St. Louis is a pretty good. I feel the need to say this all the time because there's Sounders fans that give me crap in Discord, but I think St. Louis is a good defensive target this week at home against a struggling offense in Seattle. And then I also have Herrera for DC, which feels wrong. I know a couple rounds ago, Tyler picked him up. I think it was the Seattle game, actually. Tyler picked him up and talked about it for however many weeks it's been since then, which is what kind of made me gravitate back towards him. And then I just can't really lock down a fifth defender at the moment. I think eventually I'll need to scrub someone, or at least I hope. I think Rodriguez from Montreal is a good shout. I've kind of put a couple different players in, Lennon as well. Yoshida, I think is a good look. I think you could even, go an NYCFC defender in there for the early games as a bench play to see how that pans out. But when you can kind of take a pick, I tend to pick Martins, but I think there's a couple other good options for NYCFC defense. But like I said, that fifth spot for me is just not really locked down yet.
Yeah, I think you guys are mentioning the right teams. Again, for me, I'm focusing on the teams, not the individual players necessarily. So Nashville, I totally understand why Tyler shared a good stat in chat saying that Montreal has not been shut out at home and Nashville only has 2 clean sheets on the year. But I understand why that is because Montreal has injuries. They have a midweek game with Canadian Championship this week. I want to see what their lineup looks like there. And before I decide, but I understand why you would be looking at Nashville for this round. DC, that is 100% because they are playing Chicago, so that's why looking at DC in my mind. Next, going over to Philadelphia is because if I'm not feeling good about the clean sheets, I'm going to try to find some of those defenders that have the ability to generate some of those bonus points, and so. Wagner is one of those players, but anybody else from another team that you may think has those chances with providing that sort of assistance could be a person that you go to. I know people may look toward people have looked at Lennon that you've said, Christian, but Atlanta's been struggling, so I'm hesitant for a player like him. So I'm looking more towards Philadelphia this week. And other than that, St. Louis, LA Galaxy, San Jose, I mean, those are all teams I'm looking at because of some of their matches. LA Galaxy has been pretty good with defense. Houston can score, kind of been up in the air. It's always been kind of low. I think Portland's on that list because Sporting Kansas City has always not been prolific with scoring here, but I think that's more of a risk. Same with San Jose. It's more betting against Austin, which has a very low XG, so it's just sort of kind of rolling those dice. What I will probably end up doing... and St. Louis, a lot of that, let's just be honest, they've got a fantastic defensive unit with a fantastic keeper, so that's just a kind of a fine fallback, I think, and some cheap players to get into it. But what I'll probably end up doing is maybe even scrubbing 2 defenders and just picking 3 guys and say it is what it is. I don't feel really confident, and just have a couple defenders there, see what some of my midfielders, or 1 midfielder, 1 forward may be doing, or 2 forwards may be doing on the bench, and that should give me enough money, depending on how I line up, to at least bring in someone from one of these 10-30 games if I don't like some of those scores, like we were talking about there. So that may be a way to kind of ease out the most points with pretty poor looking chances. Keeperoo, I'm in the same mind, looking at that Bono to McCarthy as a potential move right there. But we'll keep an eye on the percentages. We'll keep an eye on what people talk about, and that clean sheet chance for Vancouver 100% is going to depend upon, does Messi travel? That's the question you always have to ask for a situation like this is, are the predictions for a clean sheet chance for this team with or without Messi being on the field? Because it does change. And so I want to see. I do also question some of the travel, but we will talk about that coming up. So looking at chat real quick, don't really see too much different right there. I just don't know if I would bet on 2 away keepers, though. That's just a lot
Well, look
of
at the matchups. This is
I
a
get
real
it. I get it.
round of like the matchups don't favor the home team. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you could
always-
throw Columbus in there with the mix
Sure.
as well. So against Orlando, which has not been good fan hitting. on all
LAFC
cylinders.
is a good shout. LAFC is a good shout for a clean sheet.
If
they
yeah.
they just got a away clean sheet.
And if Gigi's out, if Almada's out, there are a lot of questions right there
Yeah.
with that attack. So yep, LAFC definitely should be on that short list of potential. Gonna see lineups, but this one, I mean, I know we've just thrown a lot of teams out there, a lot of names, but this one is the percentages are very low with what we're seeing with clean sheet chances. So it is very much up in the air. A good round to just pay the cheapest price to get into a unit, or try to get a guy who gets bonus points if you can. So which have not been great for defenders. Let's move on to our midfielders. Ashley, who do you like?
This one was a little easier for me than defenders. Every
Much?
defender I picked, I didn't love. I like Lucho. I like Puig, even with the possible painful injury. I like Vander. It's nice to see him healthy because he is fun in fantasy. Like, he is a good grab. I'm probably rolling with Santi Rodriguez as well. This week again, I know, away. Not my normal MO, but I do like the matchup. And then I'm kind of stuck on that 5th spot. If I go San Jose, I do think I lean Lopez over Espinosa. But he hasn't, I was about to say he hasn't popped. He has 2 goals in 3 games. But he's not producing bonus points in the way that Espinosa usually did. But Espinosa's not producing. So, it's kind of like, which way do you go? I think that there's a couple other options that you could throw in. I'm just really off my Mukhtar favor, and obviously he's a player that I've always loved in fantasy, so I don't think that that's where I can go. And then, we always try to look home. St. Louis doesn't have a lot of midfielders that I love. I don't like betting against Cincinnati, so I don't lean Toronto. Is Carlos Heel a viable option again? He's only getting mostly 6s, so it's hard to say. And then Christian would be better to answer this. I don't know how well Minnesota travels. Is an in-form Laud, who rested a game on the double game week, at Colorado, who leaked goals? Is he a good...
Minnesota's a great road team. It's why
Yeah,
we're
so
second in the West.
Is that someone, to look at? So, like I said, my first 4 were pretty straightforward. It's my 5th spot that I kind of bouncing back and forth about.
Christian.
I was just tweaking this as she was talking. Lucho for sure. I might actually decide to bench him because he's away, but I don't think he's a big risk. Gald, I'm pretty sure Gald is a pretty good pick because Frere is out. They're gonna put Kristoff in there, and Kristoff is gonna cause a penalty kick. I guarantee it. So Gald is a good pick, I think, for that reason. I mean, he might not get anything for 85 minutes, and then he'll score a brace. One of them being a penalty kick because Kristoff's an idiot. Anyway, Puig for sure. However, Houston is pretty good at limiting play through the midfield in terms of guys like Puig. But Puig, I think, is strong enough to overcome it. I don't have much reservation about it. Evander, again, he's a lock. Sporting Kansas City. Holy cow. I don't know what's going on with them. They will concede. Their Sporting Kansas City is a lot like Portland, where they've got a great attack. They'll score 3 or 2 on you, like without thinking about it. But then they'll concede 3, 4. What's going on there? And for my fifth mid, I was thinking Lopez. Wasn't really impressed with them I gotta say, wasn't impressed with them last week, although Lopez did score. I do have Mukhtar in consideration because Montreal played a midweek game for the same reasons I'm targeting Montreal. Montreal has given up 15 goals in the last 4 games. 15 goals in the last 4 games. There is no way they're going to fix that just because Nashville's in town. Okay? Nashville's coming into their own. They've got the dead cat bounce coming from having a new manager. They're going to play better. They did play better under the new manager. And granted, they were at home. But I have faith. I have faith that Hanny's too good to suck the entire season. Okay? He really is. So that's why I'm considering him. I might not take him, but he's in consideration. To you, Reed. Wait, the other way.
Yeah, it works. You pointed right from the way I can see it. Very chalky, I think, for all of us with the lineup. So going through, Lucho is almost an automatic add each round for me because he is so key to the team, and Cincinnati's been on such hot form right now. I can see why maybe putting him on the bench though with the road, but I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. Evander, one I absolutely want in the team. He just has such great production. I like that match against Sporting Kansas City, so that was an easy add. Gauld, I like his bonus point production, which has not always been great for people this year, but he's had some consistent bonus points, and for me, he starts to edge out others that may not have as much form with goals or assists because of that. Same thing for Pooch. I like the matchup against Houston, and I think he's going to continue to be that go-to guy, especially with some of the injuries there, and I think he's got great bonus point production. I have Santi on my team right now. He is probably the bubble player that I have. He's had some mixed results, not always getting up there. So if it's not him, I think your options do open up for who you could look at. I think you could look at Boston. We just saw what his production was this past week. I don't know if you look at Drusi. I know he's one that people typically go to, but I'd actually be interested in looking at Gomez. He had a pretty good round last week, 24 points, was in the dream team, a lot of production at home, and that's the one hesitation I have is he's really dependent on those goals and assists, and even when he does get a goal, he gets an okay 6s or 7s. Those are okay for single game weeks, but he's often not generating a lot of the extra bonus points with crosses or key passes. He gets some key passes, but he's been getting more shots lately, and that's what I do like for him. So it's a road game, but it's against Dallas, who has been weaker. But Santi's also on the road, so I think there's a couple guys you could look at, and depending on if Lowen is available for St. Louis, like you said, Christian, he's dealing with a lot of stuff going on. Hearts go out to his family, but he made an instant impact when he came in against Cincinnati last week, and so if he's going to be starting against Seattle Sounders, I think he's one that you could keep on your short list to see as maybe a fifth player or maybe a bench player, depending on what he could do, because he has that instant impact. And there was a lot of rotation with St. Louis last week against Cincinnati, and so if the A lineup comes out against Seattle, I think that could be a big handful for your guys right there, Ashley.
About Nuhu, so there's a kid starting in the back too.
There's things. So I could easily see this as a round where you might go 3 deep with St. Louis, and the midfield spot could absolutely be there. I'm going to chat real quick. Not many more tips.
It's a decent.
I mean, maybe we could see. I like the comment that Eli has made, talking about how Houston's messed up bonus point production for a lot of teams because they keep possession, but that's likely going to be Galaxy who keep that possession this round. That's a great insight for that. I understand your Mukhtar pick, Christian, and I have nothing against it just besides general hesitation from being a little bit disappointed in that production. He would be the only one that I would go with, and for me would fall in that bubble number 5 spot for me. But I totally understand why you're doing that. I still really want to see the Montreal lineup, and who they mostly I just want to see who they're playing midweek and how that pans out. Because if they have a heavy rotation, I could be tempted for Mukhtar as well.
I mean, I'm leaning Lopez, but it could be a sneaky play.
Sure.
It's a good differential.
Yeah, I get it. So, yeah.
Driussi, there's a lot of talk about Driussi on the chat. So, you want to talk about Driussi?
Yeah, you can mention it.
Well, Driussi, so Austin's kind of an enigma. I mean, they're terrible, but for some reason, they're getting better. I'm not a big fan of Austin, but, if they're going to score a goal, it's going to be probably Driussi. And by the way, there was news that broke today that they got rid of Rigoni. So it's Ethan Finley on the right.
Just waived him. It's crazy.
Yeah, they put him on waivers. So it's Ethan Finley on the right wing now. So I'm just saying. San Jose's defense is very leaky. I could see them winning this match. I could see Austin winning this match. Somebody said in chat they've only scored 2 road goals. Austin has only scored 2 road goals all season. I don't know, man. Like, San Jose is just that inept. I think that Austin could come in and beat them. And if they do that, if they look good and they do that, it's going to be a Driussi game. And we know that Driussi is kind of like not road away dependent. I mean, like, he will surprise you. He will come out of nowhere. I have thrown stuff across the room for not picking Driussi on the right week. And this just smells to me like a Driussi week. So if you want to exercise your bravery, your personal bravery, and take Driussi as a differential, put him in that 5th mid spot so that you can scrub his ass. Like, he will be your first scrub candidate, by the way. Like, I wouldn't rely on him, but he could pay off. That's just a hunch. A Spidey sense all the way hunch. Now, I'm going to look at chat. They're going to tell me I'm wrong. Okay.
That's totally
you guys
fine.
Go on.
While you do that,
read about how I'm wrong.
You do that, and we're going to move on to talking about forwards. So stop reading, Christian, because that's you.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think Benteke is a lock, even though I just panned him in the first part of this show. I think he's a lock because he's against Chicago, and Chicago is just the worst team in the world. I can see them scoring 5 goals on Chicago. So Benteke is a lock. He's actually a cap candidate. Actually, if Messi is not playing, you need to consider Benteke as your captain. I have Messi in there right now. My 3rd forward, and I have him capped. If you start Messi, you captain Messi, period. There's no halfway. There's no sticking him on your bench because people have taken him and captained him, and you will lose. So if you're going to have Messi, you're going to start him, and you're going to captain him, period. Right now, I have him started in captain. But if he doesn't travel, which we will find out probably on Friday or Saturday, maybe sooner, he's not going to be there. So my third forward right now is Jonah Rodriguez. He's a lock for me as well because of Sporting's terrible defense. Um, I think I'm torn between Jovic uh, and possibly Buwanga if Messi doesn't play. You know, uh, I don't know which one I like better, to be honest. I haven't really given it much thought because it's Tuesday, but I could see reasons for both Buwanga and Messi, or Buwanga and Jovic. Uh, so I'm really into Jonathan Rodriguez.
Oh, I hate
I
it.
really think you should have him this week. So I know you're on the fence, Ashley.
Well, not so much. I'll transit. That's a great transition. Thank you, Christian. I'm not so much on the fence with him as he's my Messi fallback. And like I said earlier, I don't think I'm thrilled if he does because it's the closest I'll ever have been to Messi living in Seattle. But I don't think Messi is going to travel across the country to another country and play on turf inside that tiny stadium. I just don't. It just doesn't. I just don't think he will. I also
Well,
kind of
I don't think he's going to do it because of his knee.
I don't
That's
think
why
he
he
can do
wouldn't
it in
do it.
general, but yes, I
He
don't
he.
feel.
Let me just put this to bed. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to put
You're
this to
fine.
bed
Don't
because
worry.
I've been hearing it all season about how Messi hates turf. He doesn't hate turf. He's like literally on the record as
Yeah,
saying he grew up playing on artificial surfaces. It's
yeah.
not a problem for him.
He
It's
played in dirt.
Suarez who hates turf.
Correct.
So, all right, go on. Sorry,
Yeah. No,
I
no,
had to
no.
say
I
that.
like I said, I just don't think he should, if that makes sense, right? Again, I'm not part of the decision-making process,
Right.
but it doesn't make sense to me if I'm Tata Martino or David Beckham. Why am I sending Messi to a non-conference team in another country? I don't even think he's ever been to Canada. Do you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense. I know
Mhm.
they're in the Shield race, so I guess technically that's 3 points they need, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like Messi's going to start. With that said, Rodriguez is my first in when
Yeah.
the Bugger tweet comes out tomorrow or whatever, right?
hmm
Um,
I
I
hope he doesn't play. I hope Messi doesn't
yeah,
even travel.
I think it's made it more interesting when he doesn't,
hmm
for sure.
Yeah.
But I also like watching, like I said, to be the closest I've ever been to Lionel Messi, so I don't hate it. But I Rodriguez is my first player in if Messi's not starting. I also
Mhm.
like Benteke, even though he was basically, a shithead this double game week round, produced nothing but home
Mhm.
Chicago. It makes sense, right? Um, on paper, if you just forget last week, it makes sense. Or last round, I should say. I also like Bawanga this week. There's something encouraging to me to see he's found his road form that he was very much lacking to start the season. So I do like him. Atlanta is struggling. They do tend to give up goals at home. I think they're mostly
Yeah.
missing offensive pieces, but they're not a great defense. So I think even though he's starting, what is it? It's today, isn't it? Didn't he start today in Open Cup?
Yeah. He
Yeah,
started today. Yep.
he did the last time they had Open Cup as well. He started that.
LAFC. LAFC rolled out almost a
Yeah. I
full
mean, he
strength lineup.
started the last Open Cup game and still started on the weekend. So,
Mhm.
and that was the weekend he had all the assists, right? All the like 3 assists, 4 assists, or whatever it was.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I don't. He is a road striker, which is usually something I avoid. But um, Bawanga, Rodriguez, I think either way, Rodriguez is just a home striker. But like I said, I anticipate to have Rodriguez because I don't think Messi's going to play. But yeah,
Brian White is another one to consider.
I've not been on him this whole season. It just hasn't seemed to click
Mhm.
yet. I think it should work, but it mostly hasn't.
Yeah, he's looked like his 2 years ago self,
Yeah,
where he couldn't hit the broadside
sure.
of a barn. But
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
but
But
here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's Miami missing their best center back.
absolutely. Yeah, I hear that for
So
sure.
I mean, he could sneeze and score a goal.
Reed, I like your differential pick. Who is your third striker right now?
Thank you. Well, first let me weigh in on Messi. I think the good thing about Messi is that we have a good chance of hearing if he does or doesn't travel ahead of time, since that seems to be the breaking news of Messi did not travel. So we'll be able to know from there. I will point out that last year he did travel to Toronto and play. This year he did not go to the first game that Miami played against Montreal for rest, and then missed 4 more games after that for a muscle injury, but did play recently with Montreal. So actually I didn't check to see where that was an away. So he didn't travel, or he went to the Montreal team. He did not play when they came home. So he has traveled to Montreal. He has traveled to Toronto. Now Vancouver is the furthest they can go. So we will see. I get that line of thought. I'm suspicious that might happen as well, but I think we will hear if that does or does not happen. My differential forward this week, like I said, Benteke, Rodriguez are 2 that I wanted. Benteke because Chicago, and Rodriguez because Sporting Kansas City. I really like those matchups for those players. Rodriguez on form, has Evander there to help Benteke. I know there have been comments about penalties. I know there have been comments about red cards and things like that, mostly about red cards and playing against weakened teams. But Chicago is just a weak team with 12 men. So I think Benteke has the chance to do well there as well. But my differential forward is Klaus. He, again, great game against Cincinnati. The guy had just puts shots out constantly, has a huge XG potential, usually 4 to 5 shots on goal a game. So he's getting more looks than that. And again, with some of the pressure and the form that St. Louis has, I think that they'll be in a good spot against Seattle. And as Ashley mentioned, Nuhu not available, I think does open up those opportunities there. So I think Klaus is a good shout there. A lot of people have mentioned other good options as well. So I think you have some good options. And I agree with the comment in chat that Eli said, don't scrub a forward. I mean, this is definitely not. You may do a bench forward. 100% is something you can do. Start with 2 and go from there. But forwards have just been so prolific. Last week during the double game week was just one of the rounds when a midfielder did better than a forward. I think that might be the case for most of our double game weeks because of just some of the better situation attacking midfielders tend to be in for point generation. But in these regular rounds, it has been by far led by forward captains, and I think you have 3 or 4 good options going into this week. But yeah, Klaus is who I would put as who I currently have as my number 3, and that's a lot of his XG potential. I think is coming out of that Seattle game. Quick check in the chat. There we go. There, people mentioned Bernadeschi, who is going to miss the round due to yellow card accumulation. So don't go with him. Definitely not, unless, as Tyler says, you want to scrub. So easy scrub right there, but don't scrub before. We just talked about this, people. Let's go. Okay, let's wrap everything up with our captain pick. So may not be a Messi captain round. So definitely if you're going with Messi, give me your backup. If you're not going with Messi, then let me know why. So let's kick that one off, Christian.
Messi, if he's there. Evander if he's not.
Ashley.
Yeah, I'm the exact
You wanted
same.
why?
Yeah, give me the why.
You wanted why?
Oh.
Because he's Evander.
He's in great form. He's in great form.
Like Evander is like Lucho in terms of like fantasy point generation. Comes out of nowhere. It's like he's a creator. He can.
It all goes through him. It's nice.
It all goes through him. Yeah.
I see him healthy. It's a very favorable matchup. It's a home game. He hasn't played at home much recently because of the injury. To me it clicks. It's Messi for me because I think that they could destroy Vancouver even in Vancouver. But like we've said all show, I don't really think he's gonna go or play. So the easy pivot at that time spot, if you're holding out for a Messi captain at 7:30 and Messi's not playing, Evander for me as well. I hate it though.
What do you think, Reed?
Sorry, I was responding to chat. So I have it on Evander right now. I don't have Messi in my team because I'm not sure about the travel. I want to see that. If Messi is traveling, if Messi does start, I mean, I'll almost feel pressured into doing Messi because of his potential. He's just scored and assisted so much this year that it would be hard to pass up that and get behind the 8 ball with that. But Evander is who I have my captain on right now because I just like his lineup or his matchup against Sporting Kansas City. If it's not Evander, then I don't know if I would go with Rodriguez, maybe Benteke if I was going to that. But I mean, Rodriguez has gotten a goal or assist in each of 4 of his last 5 games. And he's played only 45 minutes in one of those games and got 2 goals. So,
What, you're talking Santi from New
No.
York City?
no.
Rodriguez from
Portland.
what's his first name? I always want to say Brian. That's not it.
J-Rod.
You're talking about Jonathan Rodriguez? Oh, yeah, Jonathan Rodriguez. Yeah,
J-Rod. J-Rod.
I'm like, who are you even? Okay.
But I have it on Evander right now. If it's probably going to be like you guys said, Evander or Messi, and if it's Messi because I feel pressured into it. But Evander is my top pick right now, just because I love his production, I love the matchup, and it just.
Well, you want to pick a set. You want to pick a set piece taker.
Yeah. As
your captain, if you can.
Yeah. And that seems to be the consensus of chat as well. So these are definitely going to be there. I mean, have a shout out for Pooch. That's what I was responding to a second ago. He was called a bonus point merchant, which made me laugh. Not a machine, a merchant. He deals in bonus points. That's what it is. I can see that call out there. I feel a bit more at ease of some bonus points with Evander though. So just for me, the runaway first pick, especially if Messi's not available. Lucho, I'm not. I mean, I see why you do Lucho, but he's on the road. And I just hesitate against captaining road players. But, I mean, he's going to be involved. I mentioned Kelsey last week. Kelsey got the goal. Definitely has a huge impact. Didn't start in the second game, and I wasn't sure if that was because it was just he's still kind of getting into full form. But Lucho, Kelsey right there, and Kubo, just a great combination. But it's really the road game that makes me unsure. And Toronto did rotate during their midweek game, so I do expect him to come out with a strong lineup this week.
Yeah.
So
there's a note in chat. I think we missed it that Ilie just went down with a non-contact injury in their U.S. Open Cup game. Tonight.
He went down injured in the previous 2 weeks ago. So.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're saying it's just like rub some dirt on it and get up kind of situation?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I mean, we're busy doing a podcast right now. It's not like we saw it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving those insights. Thank you, everyone who joined us for tonight. I hope it helps as you're getting ready for round 14. Bouncing back after the double, this is a good one. It's a weird one, but I think there's a lot of good opportunities, a lot of opportunities for points, a lot of opportunities for some differential players. So stay tuned for what we have coming in for that. Let's wrap everything up with our plugs. Christian.
I want to plug the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord server. It is the bestest, most awesomest place to hang out every day of the week. And
Agreed.
talk about just pretty much anything, but mostly about MLS and MLS fantasy.
Agree. Ashley.
I know I did this last week, but I feel obligated for how much of a brat I was to just plug Skylar and MLS fantasy. What is it called? It's not tech. What's the term? What is it? It's like
MLS Digital.
Thank you. For getting us a way to still play, us Facebook loginers. I'm very, once it's taken away from you, you really appreciate it once you have it back. So I want to shout them out again this week.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, of course, I will double down on talking about the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. It's a fantastic place to go to. You can also go to MLSFantasyBoss.com and check out the other articles and content that we have coming out during the week. We have Team Ranchinator's Differentials article, and also the results from the Discord players poll that Christian posts for us each round, and we bug people to make sure that they participate in. So that's what I do. We get that feedback, goes up there, compared to what Skylar does with the official MLS power rankings right there. So great content, great place to go. Please do check out all of that information, because it is a fantastic community that we've been able to build over the years. So happy to be a part of it, and it's that energy you all bring that keeps us going. So I hope this week has helped you to play in your team. Don't forget to check the lineups like some of us forgot to do last week. But as always, good luck.